So, the creation of the Thunder Frog, Part 1. Um, so, a lot of what went into the inspiration for creating this comes from the logo of the company, Thunder Frog, which, shoot, I don't actually have it handy right now, but you'll see it actually, you'll see it on the front of the book. So, flip it over, take a look. The logo was, as I mentioned in my last video, was created by a guy named Jeremy Matthews, and I wasn't there at the beginning of Thunder Frog Studios, but the logo was essentially came about because, as I'm told, it was the only name for the company that everybody could agree on, who was involved at the time, but beyond that, I couldn't even tell you where the idea comes from. Many people have asked me if it deals with Thor. They have actually been told that I must be creating a story about a Thor frog, and there's obviously the connection to that classic story where Loki turned Thor into a frog. None of that has anything to do with it, as far as I know. It certainly didn't with my creation of the character. The actual genesis of it deals with from a previous enterprise I was involved in. I had got the idea of that it was probably a good idea to have a brandable name and or icon for a company. So Thunderfrog was mighty convenient. We had a character, and if this character exists, as like a character as an icon for the company, it's probably not a bad idea for him to have an identity. And it seemed like it would be fun to create a story around this character. And what I was specifically looking for was an artist that could breathe life and personality into the character, which is where Tayson was a godsend. And I kept looking at characters like Gur, from Invader Zim, and I've seen people walking around wearing outfits and merchandise with Gur on them, and these kids are too young to have even seen the show. It's crazy, and this character is basically taken on a life of its own. And it's amazing that Nickelodeon isn't doing more with it. Truthfully, I mean, they're obviously raking in the bucks, but they could be making more shows. I don't really get why they don't. And so this character seemed like it had that kind of potential. I could totally see the Thunder Frog, people walking around with Thunder Frog shirts on who've never even read a comic, because, it's such an interesting concept. And the right artist, which I was fortunate enough to find, could breathe that kind of life into it. And so that's kind of the thought process I was going for. But I also didn't just want to create a mass market thing to whore ourselves out, to pander to the masses. I wanted to give it a good story, something interesting and worth reading that isn't just pulling its punches. It's not just a kid's book. I mean, it kind of looks like one, but it's really not. It's written for an intelligent audience, and it's written to be interesting. And I think about when I was a kid and I was watching Space Battleship Yamato, known as Star Blazers here in the United States, and we had Robotech, formerly Macross, and in those two stories, which I was watching when I was 7 and 8 years old, people got killed, and it didn't scar me. I didn't go out and start beating people up because I saw people getting killed. I didn't start becoming a murderer. It didn't affect me negatively in the least. And I kind of liked that the people creating those stories for kids, or marketing the children, trusted us to be intelligent enough to get it and understand. And those certainly were relevant stories at the time, because when I was a kid, World War II was still very much on the popular consciousness. And so like the effects of that were still being felt, Vietnam, Korea, some of those wars, right? And I remember my dad talking about them. And so, I kind of appreciated that people weren't pulling punches with kids back then. It kind of feels like kids are being coddled, I guess, today. I hope I didn't offend anybody by saying that, but, I didn't feel like pulling punches in the story. I guess, looking back, I might have made it more of an all-ages book, but, it's a story I was trying to tell, and I guess we'll see where it goes.